let me show you what I said in my audio records. In this video record, I will show you what's going on there. Okay, look, we have StatefulElement, also we have StatelessElement. And if you go inside the StatelessElement, we will see that there is a widget. Okay, we will not take a look in this one right now. We will just check the StatelessElement and the build. Okay, look, if you go inside the StatelessElement, remember that it extends the component element. Okay, it extends the component element. Also, let's go inside and we will see, and we will not come back again about this, about what I say anymore. That is why let's go inside right now. There is a component element. You see that it's component element. Also component element, what does it do? It extends element. You see the component elements has mount, yes, first build. It has perform rebuild, and we will go, if we go deep inside, some kind of things it has. When we go inside there, inside the element is BuildContext. It implements the BuildContext, and if we check what's going on here, is there like a lot of things. You may ask that what does all these classes do here. I will say that the BuildContext is just the interface. It's abstract class that doesn't do anything. It has a widget mounted, like some kind of properties and methods that are not implemented. There's a look. The no function, node method of the BuildContext is implemented. There's just abstract methods, all of them. You see? No, that's even this inherited widget of exact type. Like we have finance ancestors of the state, some kind of. All of them are just abstract methods. But when we go back, like to the stateless widget, StatelessElement. StatelessElement also extends the component element. You see, component element, and whenever the component element, the BuildContext, there's some kind of mount method. There is a mount method. Whenever the component element mount method registers itself in a element tree. Look, I'm talking only about stateless widget. Immediately after registering and after like calling the first build, did you see that, like call the first build here, yeah, some kind of things. Only after when it calls, when the element tree is registered in a element is registered in elementary, only after that directly the build method will be called. You see, will be called with the current element. And element, StatelessElement, you see, StatelessElement, StatefulElement, all of them are BuildContext. You see, that is why whenever I go and do some kind of things like this one, look, final state, full element, or maybe stateless. Let's just StatelessElement, StatelessElement widget. Yeah, just imagine that we are doing this one, and we will do final BuildContext and StatelessElement. No errors are there. That is why I don't think that it's complicated. And if I do StatefulElement, yeah, exactly same thing, and I put the StatefulElement inside here, no errors will be occurred. There is nothing complicated. That is why let's go, as I said, that the StatefulElement will be the build method of this one will be called immediately. But when I go to the StatefulElement also has stateful widget. If I go to the stateful widget, it also has StatefulElement. But unlike StattelessElement, it has a create state. We had a build method inside the stateless widget. We have a create state inside the stateful widget. That is why. Look, when we go inside the stateful element, we will see that stateful element also extends the component element as stateless widget. That is why a lot of people may say that excuse me, they will say that stateful widget or stateless widget, stateful widget is very heavy, it's burdensome, some kind of things. You can use that. It takes a lot of memory and some kind of things. Don't believe them. All of them are same, but unlike stateless widget, it has a state inside. Stateful widget has a state. It has to create a state somehow. There is why when we do some kind of things, it's just a configuration. Remember that stateless widget and stateful widget is just a configuration of your UI, nothing else. That is why we wrote the configuration. We wrote the configuration of state, and whenever we want to call it in order to register element in the element tree, we go to the inside the stateful element. You will notice and you will see that the widgets create state. This creates state. This creates state. Is this one? It will call the create state, and after that, it will, in a constructor, it will call the mount method somehow in a framework, Flutter framework. I don't exactly know. Right now it's a little bit complicated for me. I don't know how it works, but I checked it out, and right now I can't answer you what is this. But right now, when after state create state will be called, only after that calls the mount method, registers it. It's inside the stateful, inside the element tree registers, and this it means the stateful element, which is the build context there. Yeah, we will set the element inside the state, inside the widget. We will set here, and that's all. There is no things, very bad things. But after only that, when we go inside the component element, as I said, the mount method will be called. Mount method will call the first build. But right now we are working as we are working with stateful element. Whenever the mount method calls, we can see that we overrided that one. That is why only when mount method calls the first build, initial state, init state of the state will be called here, and after that the first build of the element, component element, will be called here. Rebuild, what does the rebuild do? If you go inside rebuild, we can see the rebuild calls perform rebuild, but we implemented the perform rebuild not inside, let me show, not inside element. We implemented that inside component element. Look, we go inside this one. We will see there's a component element. Yeah, component element. We will go inside the first build, which is component element, one component. But when we call the rebuild method of the element, rebuild method calls the perform rebuild, but the implementation we did here, perform rebuild. What does the perform rebuild do? It calls the build method, your build method that you have right now. It is inside component element. It calls the build method. And the build method is not the stateful widget's build method. It's from the state. You see? As we know that stateless element has a build method directly inside, but the build method of the stateful widget is inside the state. Look, that we don't have any build method here. We don't have this one. But if we had a stateless widget, like stateless widget, if we had stateless widget here, we can exactly directly call build here, no state here. Yes, you see, build method, no state here. But as we have stateful widget here, a stateful widget creates a state, not instantly. It creates state here. It's just a configuration. Only the build method will be called only in the end, I would say, because look, if you go inside, deep inside, you can see that it calls create state first, it calls the mount method of the registration element in the element tree, and only after that the build method will be called. After this first build, after first build, the build method will be called there. But you may also, you can ask me about what does the set state do. There is also I have a concept about set state. Let's go inside. What does the set state do? Look, set state is just a function that if we close the asserts here, you have to know that asserts in AOT, like in the release mode, will be gone. There is no asserts will be there. That is why if we remove this one, there will be only two line of code. This one object, the function that we are sending from the set state, and also this one element mark needs build. Not mark needs build. What mark needs build do, you may ask? It doesn't do anything at all. It says it puts the elements property, you see, elements property dirty. It says that right now my element is dirty, and schedule for this element a build method, like rebuild this method of the stateful widget, stateless widget. Just schedule it and then build it. And that's all, not complicated things. There's frameworks code. I don't exactly know how does it work. What does it do here? I don't know. And may some kind of better programmers should know about it. But right now I don't know. But I will explore how specific set state or mark needs build work in the future, but not right now. Look, element and mark needs build. Mark needs build says that I will put the element dirty, and it means that I have to rebuild the build method. And that's all. It schedules the build method in the future, and somewhere it puts the list in the list of look, marks the element as dirty and adds it to the global list of widgets to rebuild in the next frame. You see, it's the same thing, I would say. Not complicated thing, not burdensome. That is why I remember that you don't have to think that stateless element, stateful widget, burdensome, and stateful widget is heavy, and you can use that. It takes a lot of memory, some kind of things. It's just rumors, I would say, not real proof of that the stateful widget works. Like it takes a lot of memory, some kind of thing, and in the end, it always calls the unmount method when you are not using this or that one. Look, in this, it has unmount method, which calls the dispose. All of them. Look, state component element. Look, it's from component element. It's from element. It's from element, and when you call the dispose method, it just removes the widget from the widget tree, element from the element tree, and calls the state dispose as well. Look. You see, BuildContext, as I've shown you that it works exactly same nothing. Look, just you may ask that why stateless widget it's not burdensome. Stateful widget is not burdensome. I can show you that. Just test stateless widget. Yeah, and you can put this one, do like this one, and you can do scaffold something, body, text, button, yeah, text, something inside, and you can do like this one. context. As I said you, that build context is exactly same like stateless element, stateful element. It's all of them the same thing. If we go inside the realization, you can see that the context, the context we are using. A stateless element extends the component element, component element extends the element extends the build method. But the real problem, not problem, I would say that the real realization of mark needs build inside this one, inside here, mark needs build. Mark needs build, look, from element. That is why you have to say to the context, as I said, all of them the same. You can use stateless element, and you can call from here, it functions mark needs build or mark needs build. It doesn't matter, it's not burdensome. And you can call state, you better call the element as element, because all of them are same. You can call this one, and after that you can do mark needs build. It exactly works like set state of your stateful element. Exactly same, set state. But framework says that you don't have to do this one, because if the framework doesn't have set state inside the stateless widget, why you should call like this one, do this one. You don't have to this one, but I'm showing the main purpose of showing this one is that it's not burdensome. You can use both of them, but unlike the stateless widget, stateful widget has a state as a delegate. You may heard about that in Swift language in some kind of place. It's a delegates that put some realization of the code, or maybe some purpose, some kind of places that should be done. It will be set in delegates. There is why stateful widget, stateless state is just a delegate for the stateful widget. State has a lot of like methods. You see, look, we have element. I forgot you to tell about how communication between a state and also stateful element. Look, we have state. State. If you go inside, we can notice. You can see that inside the state, we have an element. Yes, element. Why, you may ask why we need this element? Because when we want to check that is the element still exists in the element tree, you can use the mount. Check the mount. It means that is it still in the element tree, and after that you can call the init state. Init state in some kind of places. Did update widget, dispose, all of them inside state. But you may ask that what the hell is the element doing inside the state? Because why it should concern about this element? Because of that you can check directly. You can take the context. You see, you can when you are taking the context, you're taking from the element, context element. You see, it's stateful element. It's the context. It's exactly the same thing. Element, it checks that whether when you're calling something inside here, or maybe inside the dispose method, when you're calling inside the dispose method some kind of context, but the reason is that you're getting error inside the dispose, because dispose unmounts it takes off the element from the element tree. That is why it doesn't work anymore. It throws a lot of errors there. That is why dispose method of the state that you have, dispose method of the state that you have, it checks whether your element, when you calling the context from here, context.read blog, or maybe something like this one, it checks whether your context still exists in the element tree. In element tree, where is it? Where is it? Element tree. It checks whether the element is not null, because when you call dispose method, the element will be set null in the end. From the unmount method of the element, it's deep inside the Flutter framework. I don't know, as I said, I don't know how it works, but it does. It just finishes like just go inside the component. Let's go inside the component element, and we will see that there is a mount method. Just check it once again. Where is the mount? It's inside the component. StatefulElement. StatefulElement. It unmounts. Look, it puts the elements, the states element null. Where is it? I wanted to show you where is the state. All of them in the one library. Okay, look, it puts this element null. Where? Inside unmount. You see, state element null, and also it puts the state null. That is why when you check whether it's not null, it throws an error, Flutter error, and if it's not null, it returns an element. And you may ask where the element puts itself. It pulls it inside the StatefulElement in a constructor. StatefulElement, when the widget creates an element, a state, it calls the mount method. It registers itself in the element tree. Only after that, when it registered, this is the build context. That is why it puts inside element, puts the widget inside the state of widget, and that's all. It's just calls, as I said, mount method calls the first build. Realization is here. The first build calls the rebuild method. Rebuild method calls this one, and the rebuild method calls perform rebuild, and the perform method rebuilds realization is where exactly here. The build method will be called there. That's all. Yes, what I wanted to show you. All of my explanation about that stateful widget and stateless are the same, that they have specific not specific, they have the same component element, like the same element, but unlike StatelessElement, StatefulElement does a lot of configurations, checkings, asserts. StatelessElement doesn't have this all. Let's go inside. I show you. StatelessElement doesn't have this all things. See, component element, it doesn't have any constructors, unlike this one. You see a lot of constructor, a lot of configurations. It doesn't have. It immediately calls the build method an update. It's not necessary, but it's better to know how it works. And that's all. Same thing. That's all for now.